Hello, Roger. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Wonderful. How are you doing today?
Good. We're in good shape. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. See one thing here. It's been a while since I hosted. I think we are already live, is my understanding. Normally, there is a little button here that I can make the webinar live, which is fine. Just so as you know, I think there's already people here in the audience.
Yeah.
John, Mike, or Boas, if you are hearing us, can you let me know if we are live?
Pop something in the chat.
I will do that. Yeah. Or if they can do that, yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. If one of you can just say something in the chat. There you go.
We are live.
All right. Excellent.
Where? Fix my hair. Hold on. Okay, I didn't know.
Quick, everybody. Yeah. So Haiti Rylander, she was the one who originally set up this webinar, and she's getting married this week.
Oh, yeah.
So she's off. I've been as a co-host here. So since I'm co-host, I think already jumped right in here. But anyway, hello, Melanie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank
Hello.
you.
Hey, good to
Hi.
see you.
Good to see you too.
Wonderful. So I believe both of you already know each other, right? That's perfect. All right. So Melanie, just so as you know, we're already live. We're going to be waiting. We have 3 people in the audience already. People
Okay.
Up, but that's fine. So maybe if any of you have slides, if you want to try this now, that's a good time to try to share your screen. Let's see everything's working fine, and we go from there.
Okay. All right, let me try. All right, I'll figure it out. Share screen. Oh, the host disabled participants screen sharing.
So let me see here. Try now, and I'll then do the same to Melanie, making both of you co-hosts. All right. Any changes now? All right. We see what happens.
Yep. What do you got?
Wonderful. Yeah, we have your slides, and if you want to maximize them, we can make sure we have the right screen from you as well.
Did it maximize? What happened?
No, it did.
Okay.
Right. Wonderful.
Oh, good. Okay.
If Melanie can do the same. Melanie, can you try to share
Yeah, let me do that.
your slides?
Share screen. Okay. This will stop others share screening. Do you want to continue? So I'll continue.
I just stopped mine.
Okay.
No
So
problem.
let's see. Okay. Does that work?
Wonderful. It does.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Which is slow. All right. I didn't know this was like this kind of slow stuff. Anyway, yeah, I mean, this is actually good because I didn't really know exactly what we're supposed to say. I don't know. I kind of like did this little bit of why vertical farming, which I think is relevant to both of us. You know, it's just kind of why. And Roger, please jump in if you want to comment, or I don't know who's going to go first, but you know. And then the structure of my talk was, what did I say? Okay, what is controlled environment? Just like everything that can grow from a hoop house with a little plastic on top to a glass house to vertical farming, where we do everything. And then I just sort of say, this kind of to support that greenhouses, stacked, or, Aerofarms. Different people have slightly different things. And of course, these are plenty slides that I pulled from different talks. So they stress plenty. So, and then I just sort of talk about, why, a little bit about who we are. I just really it's just who we are, how we grow, have a little video that's like a minute long. Stop. This is what we're building. So I don't really go into any cool science. I kind of mention our partners, and then I kind of say, what do I say? I say the challenges are also the goals, because I know, Erica, you want to talk, it's just like all these things that we make claims about in terms of what we're doing or what we want to do. I mean, those are the challenges. So that's kind of how I ended.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my whole talk. You just heard my whole talk. So.
And what what I've got is pretty similar. So I think we'll give kind of like two views of the same thing.
Yeah.
I like how the font, how the logo font plays through to all the rest of the slides. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you. I think I missed it a couple times, which commercial would probably be mad at me about, but hopefully close enough.
Let me now share my screen because I have a few intro slides as well.
Okay.
And I don't think I tested that. Well, I tested. I just want to make sure I'm sharing the correct screen in the right place. So let me do that. And yes, that's Melanie and Roger. That's exactly the goal today. So we have a nice conversation about nothing specific, no hard data, just the challenges. And I agree with you, Melanie. The challenges are the opportunities. That's why both of you are working on that. So it's nice. It's an open conversation, more to create awareness with the industry and create more interest and collaborations and more than anything. So like we said before, the structure going to be, which one of you want to go first? It doesn't matter. Do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference.
It's up to you. Ladies first. You could ask me to go first.
Sure, I can go first. But yeah, why don't you jump in, when I'm talking about generally speaking, what is vertical farming or things like that.
Okay.
If you want to, that would be kind of.
Can both of you see which of my screens, the notes or the main screen?
The notes.
Notes.
Now we can see.
Current slide 206, next slide 306.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session.
You can then host as well, Roger. That'll make my life easy.
Yeah, no, I can do it. You want me to do that?
I think that's another one. I have 3 screens. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I should tell you guys, I'm at a hotel. I was visiting my mother this weekend and in Florida, and I'm staying in a hotel, and I didn't want to. Anyway, I'm in a ballroom, so there is a small possibility somebody's going to come in here and say you can't use this room. And if I turn myself on mute and run around, you'll just know what happens.
That'll make things interesting, right?
I know exactly.
Be fun. Oh, that's excellent. So I normally give people 3 to 5 minutes to join. That's how we see people coming. So as soon as we hit 2 o'clock here, I'm just going to say a quick hi to everybody. Can just do a little bit. So Melanie, you are in Florida, you said, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And Roger, are you in New Jersey?
I'm in Ohio today.
Ohio. You're already there for Cultivate? You're getting a head start?
No, so my office is in Ohio. Aerofarms is incorporated in Ohio also. But yeah, Cultivate could be interesting too.
Yeah.
Are you going to be at Cultivate, Roger?
Maybe is the answer. So I've got a few personal things that are popping up. If I can work it out, I will.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am also. So
Both of you would be at the 101 in Arizona this year?
certainly planning for it. Yes.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, that's definitely number 1 on my list.
And that's the international one that was postponed, right? So this one would be a big one, be a very nice
Yep.
one.
Yep.
Be very nice. All right, so it's 2 o'clock right now. Hello, everybody who's joining us here. Today, we're going to have as part of our GLASE webinar series, going to be a roundtable about indoor farming. Let's give a few more minutes, and then I'll start the formal introduction here. Let's just wait 2-3 minutes for people to join, and then we go from there. In the meantime, Melanie, Roger, and I can entertain you with some elevator talk. We're just talking about how's the weather, where people are located. I'm calling from Georgia today, and it's very, very hot in here. So
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad in Ohio.
I said I'm not complaining about the weather because I was complaining about the cold all the time, but I forgot how hot it is in Georgia.
You went from New York to Georgia, and you're like, what? What did I do?
Exactly.
Actually, Florida, I was just in Georgia, as you know, a couple of days ago, and Florida is actually much cooler than Georgia. I'm like, okay.
That's good. You should take it. Yeah, 'cause it's pretty hot in here.
Yeah, it's not bad here at all.
Yeah, so it's sunny today, but I'll show you. I'll see if I can pop it in the chat. There's a cloud coming for Cleveland. Let's see. Oh, I can't. No, I can't. But I can share it. I'll do the share. So a cloud. Sharing. Here you go. So
Oh my goodness.
the cloud of mayflies are coming.
Oh my gosh. Have you ever had that before?
Yeah, so it is a lot this summer. But yes, it is every summer around this time. And it's such that the can you still see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. If you park in the wrong place, you end up getting the roads covered. So they actually along Lake Erie, they changed the schedule for the streetlights in order to try to keep the mayflies all from stopping as soon as they find the first light, and kind of help spread it out the mess a little bit when they come on to land.
Wow. Wow.
And then they hang out for a few more hours and then they're dead. So they only live like one day. So apparently they're partying up over this Honda for that one day.
Wow.
Live life to the fullest,
Yeah.
Not a problem for indoor farms, right? Which is good.
True. But however, if you want to go for insect protein, if that was your gig, go grabbing that and I'll meet you down at the lake. We can make $1 million.
Absolutely. That's some source of raw material right there. Yeah. All right. I think we can start with the formal introduction. So let me start by sharing my screen. Let me see here. Hopefully I got the right one this time around. Everybody can see. All right, there you go. So good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us here today for the GLASE webinar series. Today, we're gonna have a roundtable with two of my favorite people here in the indoor farming world. Let's get to the introductions in just a second. So my name is Erico Matos, and I'm the Executive Director of the GLASE Consortium, the Greenhouse Lighting and Systems Engineering Consortium. The GLASE Consortium webinar series is a selection of live recorded presentations that cover a broad range of topics related to controlled environment agriculture. These webinars feature the latest technological innovations and the best practice in the CEA field, providing the audience the opportunity to discover new solutions and to connect with the field experts. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speakers, Melanie Elton, who is the Director of Plant Sciences at Plenty, and Roger Bulow, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Aerofarms. And today, we're going to be talking about the challenges and opportunities of scaling up indoor farming. It's a friendly conversation to create awareness in the industry, look into these opportunities, why we're working on them, and maybe cover topics like energy, sustainability, and the market value that we see from indoor farms. Just to like to remind everyone that a recorded version of this webinar will be available at our website, glaze.org, where you can find all the other previous webinars. And if you have any questions about the presentation today, or would like to get in contact with the speakers, please send us a message, and please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, not the message, the Q&A button. It's easy to track the questions. Since today is a roundtable format, we're going to prioritize more engagement with the audience. So we have a brief presentation from each one of them at the beginning, and then it's a guided discussion. So please send your questions along the way. As soon as you're done with the presentations, we're going to bring these questions to discussion, and we're going to have a nice conversation. I would like to say thank you to all the GLASE members who can help us to make that available to everyone for free. And today, in specific, we have a sponsor, which is one of our GLASE members as well, Rain Grow Systems. We have a 30 seconds video from them, and then we're going to jump straight into the presentations. All right, so let's jump into the presentations. I'll stop sharing my screen. And who is said gonna go first? I can't remember now. Melanie, what do you decide, Melanie or Roger? Each one of you can, any one of you can share the screen and start.
I think Roger volunteered me to go first.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let me share my screen. It's always a little bit of a mystery. This works. All right. We're good?
Yeah, it's good.
All
You're
right.
good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and like Erica said, I see this as a roundtable discussion, so welcome. I can stop the presentation and we can just chat here and there. So anyway, so as Erica said, I'm Melanie Yelton. I'm actually today I'm in Florida, but I am typically in South San Francisco at one of our production farms. So I'm going to tell you, generally speaking, a little bit about Plenty and the goals that we have. So first, I wanted to sort of say, why indoor farming? I mean, I think a lot of us have kind of said, why in the world would you want to use the energy that's required for indoor farming? And this is the way I think about it. That really the production availability of this wonderful Mediterranean climate that grows crops very nicely is very limited, and it's being depleted. So 3 acres of land is lost per minute, which is pretty extraordinary. And the seasonal production challenging, particularly as we have climate changes, are just exacerbating the limited area that has this perfect growing seasons that typically we have, right along that Mediterranean region. A lot of it's in California. And then transportation, more and more we're becoming aware of the fact that we want our food to be local. We don't want it to be coming from, a different country, a different place, thousands of miles away, literally. The distribution creates a lot of food safety risk as the food gets older, it's, starts to decay, all these things. And this is an amazing number that I found, that 40% of our total production is wasted just at the retail and consumer levels. So anyway, and just going on, it's just the supply, just making fresh, clean, good food available to everybody is kind of what's driving the need for vertical farming. So let's see. Okay. All right. So then, so what we're looking towards is indoor farming is really at this inflection point. So, whereas we think of the fields as being very exposed, very fragile, if we think about strawberries, for example, particularly strawberries, we almost have bred them for disease resistance, and we haven't been able to give enough attention to flavor and nutrition because we just had to worry about this very exposed environment that they have to grow in. Farmers in the fields have to react to the volatility of the weather, whereas in vertical farming, it can be controlled and predictable. And that, I've already alluded to this, trading yield, because we can push our plants to give lots of yield and lots of flavor. We don't have to make these trade-offs that are often associated with the field. And also supply. If we can put our vertical farms, just about anywhere, then we can get the produce close to everyone. Okay, so that's kind of the reason for vertical farming, the reason that we need to think about this now. What am I doing wrong? Okay. Okay, so I just want to kind of state the obvious. I know this audience knows this, but what is controlled environment? Because it kind of comes up more often than you think. That I think of, any crop that's a little bit protected is controlled environment agriculture. And a protected crop that's grown with sunlight or supplemental light is what we all consider, or what I consider, is kind of almost like a greenhouse. So it might be a hoop house with a little plastic on top, or it might be a really high-tech, double glass, wonderful greenhouse with a lot of control. And then vertical farming. So vertical farming is really crops that are grown exclusively indoors with artificial lighting. So just making that distinction, but it gets confusing because not everybody grows vertically, and but yeah, it's indoors. Okay, so just to restate that kind of, so we've got greenhouses. Greenhouses are often limited by geographic limitations, from the standpoint of it's harder to have a greenhouse, the further north, the colder it is, the darker it is. Often they are typically one layer in their growing plane. So, you do have in floriculture, particularly a lot of hanging baskets and stacking, but it typically is one layer. Vertical growing is stacked often, and this is not true for all vertical growers. but they have multiple layers, and the uniform environment may be a challenge. And anyway, this is just a picture of Plenty's farm, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, but we grow in these vertical towers. Okay, so what we've done initially, Plenty's been kind of an unusual company in that even though it's been around since about 2013, what they spent a lot of years, and even up until now, is doing research. So we were not interested, we didn't address sales in the grocery stores for a long, long time. And we invested a huge amount of money, $400 million plus, into R&D. And the premise and our goals associated with that were to be able to grow anything, anywhere, with super high yields. You know, again, right there, I'm saying a 700% yield gain since 2018, projecting year after year yield gains for the next decade, and then very, very high quality. So those were the goals that we had at Plenty. To do this, we kind of went back to the basics, which I think you're probably all familiar with. You know, you look at the environment, you look at the genetics, and you look at the management. And, you know, kind of with those three tenets in mind, you know, we thought about, okay, the environment of our vertical towers, lights, using the different spectrum, the environment, controlling our environment really carefully, having our fluids and nutrition. Genetics, really looking at a lot of screening, looking at many, many different cultivars of leafy greens, and then other plants now as we move into tomatoes and strawberries and other things. Having our operating system, automated control, sensors, and other things to really control our farm very precisely. Okay, so here's Plenty. We have current operations that are in Laramie, Wyoming, and this is really the heart and soul of our R&D. So at Laramie, we have, you know, greater than 40 walk-in growth chambers. This is one of them. You see they're side by side here. So these are, you know, probably about 120 square foot growth chambers, which have a vertical tower that's about 9 feet, 3 meters, that mimics our production farm. So that's where, again, all our optimization and our variety screening is done. And then we have a test farm in South San Francisco where I'm located. And this is the central processing area of the test farm. And this was, again, to see if we could scale the learnings of Laramie to here in South San Francisco. Okay, so this is just a little bit of a picture of what we do in South San Francisco. You know, we germinate seeds, we grow the seedlings in a nursery, we transplant them. They are here in these vertical towers. Then the pickup robot will pick this tower up, and it's harvested almost like a meat slicer. It just cuts right down the tower, and then it's put into a little package. And another little cartoon version of that is this picture, which I find kind of helpful, but it's the same thing. I say, you know, this is the operating system that controls these, but really it's just the same thing, you know, of going, how you see our plants move along the production line till they're on a truck going to the grocery store. So just for fun, I was going to show you this video. This is a little bit of a commercial video, but still kind of fun to watch, in my biased opinion. So I'm going to turn this on and we'll see the production farm. And again, I have to say this was made during the commissioning of our farm. So it kind of upsets me a little bit in that nobody's wearing masks or hairnets in the way that, of course, now when we go in the farm, you know, we are all geared up with masks and gloves and hairnets and everything. But so don't get, you know, confused by that. Can you guys still hear me talk?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to let, if you don't mind, I'm going to not put the sound on. Okay, so that's our pickup robot that's, you know, hanging up the towers there. And then, you know, so this is, you know, being inspected so that it's moving the towers along. They progress from a young plant to a more mature plant. And, you know, again, we have growers that are just, you know, assessing the quality. That's the lay down robot that we just saw that's laying down. Yeah, so, you know, so that's kind of, you know, fun little video of, you know, how it goes. And, you know, I welcome you to come visit anytime. Okay, and then the last thing I want to speak about too, in terms of where we are and what we do is we just really dropped seed here in our Compton facility. So Compton is a city right outside of Los Angeles. This is as our first super full-scale facility. It's about 96,000 square feet. We've modeled it on the San Francisco facility in that it breaks down into about 6 grow rooms that are the size of the growers we have in San Francisco. So we have a confidence that we know how to do a room of this size. We know what it can produce, and we're almost there. We're practicing growing right now in that facility. Okay, so these are the kinds of yields that we have and want to have. Here in our research facility, we're getting about 950 grams per meter square per day. And again, this is not square feet on the ground. This is the growing plane. And right now, this is what we anticipate, we plan for in our Los Angeles farm. So that's kind of what we're looking towards for our lettuces going forward. Okay. All right, so then I just want to mention briefly our partners. The original investment in Plenty was by venture capitalists and other venture partners, but more recently we've had some partners that have been very, very supportive and helpful to our growing strategies. One of them is Driscoll's. So we've actually been able to hire a few people from Driscoll's. Driscoll's headquarters is right down the street, well, about 45 minutes away from the San Francisco offices. And so we have a partnership with Driscoll's, growing together, looking at how we can grow strawberries indoors. We've been examining some of the Driscoll varieties and some of the Plenty varieties. So that's been a very powerful partnership. And then the other one I just want to mention, real quick. So this is just kind of gives you the sense of the grocery stores that we're in. Currently, we have a small coverage right now in terms of about 50 grocery stores. And then with the Compton facility, we're committed to over 400 grocery stores in the California area. And then another recent investment is a recent investment and partnership with Walmart, which again has kind of created a new strategy, a new thinking around how Plenty wants to grow, because Walmart wants to create almost a new food category, which is clean food. If you think about organic food and how people perceive and feel safe around that, they want to create another food category, which is around clean food you can just open up the package and just eat. So that's really exciting to have, Walmart's, commitment to us and growing this way. Okay, so the last thing I want to say is really, I was looking at a couple of other slides that I had, and I realized, that our goals are the same thing as our challenge. We have to have higher yields. And what that means is we need to make higher yields that are associated with using less land and space. We need to use less energy. That means really using everything from our spectrum to maybe using far red light to get leaf expansion, so we really catch every photon, to maybe figuring out when we might want to turn off our pumps. Do we really need continuous irrigation, or is an intermittent irrigation strategy more successful, and does it save a lot of energy? What you find when you go to scale is, just turning off a pump for 2 or 3 hours in the SCOTA period at night saves a massive amount. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in energy. So I think we're starting to pay a lot of attention to this. Less water and less nutrients, or just the right amount of nutrients. So this, again, I think this is high on the list of everyone. We want to be able to make these claims of using a lot less water and being very efficient. No pesticides, that kind of goes without saying, going back to what I was saying about opening the package, eating the food. You just want to be able to trust it that it's super clean. And also, having this post-harvest longevity. So in the package, it lasts for a long, long time. And also the nutrition, has the nutrition decayed? We've heard about this where nutrition is, rapidly drops off. So we want to do research around avoiding that. And this requires that our farms are robust and modular. We want to build farms very efficiently. We don't want to build a different farm everywhere we go. We want to be able to have, this farm, which we can build anywhere we need to. And then we want it to be very close to consumers with, again, guaranteed food safety. So that's kind of what I had for you today. I just wanted to say, well, let me go back to this slide. I can't begin to thank the almost 400 people that are at Plenty, but here are some of the key growers and people that I work with. So I want to thank them and thank you for listening. So that's what I had to say today.
That was great.
I can stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Melanie.
Over to you, Roger.
I definitely made the mistake of going second. That was fantastic. So really pale in comparison. I would take a comment that maybe we could put for the Q&A later. We talk about the food waste. I love the fact that you had that in the slide. The and half of the waste in the transportation. But even with the food waste, we don't start counting that until it's been harvested. and we're skipping all the waste that's left even in the field. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of resources going for food that people just are not eating. My wife this morning, was complaining about some greens that the kids weren't eating and had gone bad. It was some kind of a chopped kale kit that she had gotten, not Aerofarms, right? The kids didn't like that because they're spoiled on Aerofarm stuff, and so they didn't go for it. And so this morning in my house, we put greens down the garbage disposal, and so we could do better across the board. Okay, so I can share. I have some slides that are more, no surprise, more Aerofarm centric, but you can also move around as needed. We figured out that if I press this, here we go, it's coming. Great. Do you see the big one, or do you see the one with the notes on it?
The right one, the correct
The
one.
right one. Okay, good. So here's a picture of Aerofarms. We'll watch a little movie, maybe, if I can get that hook up to work in a second. And you're in this picture, you're standing in our or you're hovering, I suppose, in our first production farm in Newark, New Jersey. We'll talk about where we've gone since then. And you're kind of looking at essentially 4-year-old technology when you take a look in this picture. And so it's been an exciting time as we progress even beyond this. And I'll point out that picture that there was a picture of the horizontal stack in Melanie's presentation. And there's one guy in a blue coat walking around in that picture. I think that was me from that picture of Aerofarms. All right, so we'll talk about kind of what's been happening with R&D technology. And very specifically, I'm going to reach into some partnerships and partnerships that are they're open for group participation. So these are some of these consortia are still open for members, and so we can talk through how to link up on these different items. Well, this picture is up. I'll point out this little box right here. So you always skip this little box, but this little box, that's the heater. You have to have a heater per code. You want to have some kind of a heater in case power goes out. You need to have some gas in there to keep your pipes from freezing. But that's it. And so part of the discussion is, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, the lights were the heaters, but things have gotten a lot better since then. Here's a history slide for Aerofarms. And as we've marched from left to right on this slide over the last 15 years, it's been sort of the American inventor story for a while, which is in kind of like this first 7 years or so, where it's an inventor, Dr. Ed Harwood, was working on this in Ithaca, New York, and he was figuring out that leafy greens made a lot of sense, and he was figuring out that how aeroponics could work. And then we started marching our way through the venture-backed company approach, where you build up a system, you retire risk, and you march along. And each step along the way, you retire more risk. And that has worked pretty well for us. So from this one here, at the time it was huge, but now I called it little. It slipped out. But it's taking up 2 stories of a nightclub where we all would sit up on the mezzanine, where the VIPs would sit. And instead of watching people dance, we sneak handfuls of lettuce. And then as you go to the right, there's the farm that we were just talking about on the previous page, and we'll talk about more coming up. And then over here, there's some pictures of where we're going next. So we have 2 facilities that are very close to ribbon cutting. I think that the one in Abu Dhabi is a few months ahead of the one in Danville, maybe a few weeks, actually, when I think about 4 weeks ahead, as they've been racing for the last year. Here's the one in Danville, Virginia, and we're excited about. We got the parking lot in. All right, that was a big day when that was all set. And so the next generation of towers and systems and automation is all living in this box in Danville, Virginia, and in this big box in Abu Dhabi. So let's talk about some of the pieces of what's in that next generation. Here's back to that same picture. Hey, who's that good-looking guy in a blue lab coat right there? And so in these stacks, you see the same sort of components. And this is kind of like Melanie's page saying that the opportunities are the risks. And I agree with that. And so this talks about de-risking. These challenges. It's also the exciting part, right? So this is where if you're a technologist, a scientist, or engineer, you can be making big breakthroughs on the cutting edge of a industry that's blowing up. So it's a great time to be a scientist or engineer in vertical farming space. There's a lot to figure out. We talk about what's the best way to bring the nutrient solutions to the plants. And even though Aerofarms, our name starts with AERO, and we got that from the word aeroponic, of course, Aerofarms is, we grow a lot more than leafy greens these days. And so we make the right decision based on the plant that we're growing in order to get it the right environment and in the root zone. And then again, the right environment above. So the lights, when we talk about, let's drop the energy, that's key. That Danville farm uses about 60% less energy than the one in Newark, just from chipping away advancements at the lights, at the HVAC, and even the pumps, like Melanie suggested. So just chipping away at that. There's not a lot of people in this picture, but in general, we want to make sure that our aero farmers are on the value added processes, the most interesting jobs where they can have the most impact. And so as you add in more automation, with a robot snagging the trays, with ways to slice the lettuce out and pack it, those are all good examples of times where we can take frankly, one of the more boring jobs, and we can automate it, reduce risk, and increase speed. I'll talk a little bit more about plant genetics in a second. Okay, this video might work. Let's see. So if so, all right, I'm going to get it started. I probably have to reshare. Give me 10 seconds here.
Yeah, you can try to stop sharing your screen, and if you have another window open, you can try that as well, Roger.
Yep, one moment. Are you with me? And then I'm going to press play. Did the sound come through?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, then we'll let that sound go through. I'll pause it a little bit as we go. This video was made with Dell, and this was the video that Dell used to open up Dell World Conference for their first ever Dell World Conference, to show highlight our partnership with them. So you'll see how many times you can find Dell's logo in it as we march through it. But some of the videography in particular was far fancier than our normal crew could handle. So we're pretty excited to have their help. So starting with these, stop motion sort of. Yeah, it really does grow that fast too. So it takes about 10 seconds, and we're.
Thought you could grow a plant in a warehouse instead of.
There's the CEO. Where is his mask? You might wonder.
A field without sun, without soil. doing it, and we're not only doing it on an experimental level, we're doing it on a commercial level. Today we focus on leafy greens. We believe we could grow anything. Our vision is to build farms in cities all over the world to allow everyone to have access to fresh, great tasting, healthy food all year round. The fact that we can grow plants using 95% less water, 0 pesticides, as much as 390 times the productivity per square foot as a field farmer shows what technology can do. We're able to understand the plants better than anyone ever in the history of farming, and it's by the data. This is why the relationship with Dell Technologies is so valuable. We're collecting all of these data points of what we're giving the plant, what spectrum of light, what nutrients, how do we improve quality, taste, texture. We're using data analytics and becoming better farmers. At the end of the day, it's about how do we deliver a better product to the customer.
This is Aerofarms baby kale. This is going to be pack the flavor of kale. The watercress had those peppery notes. The bok choy is super juicy. This is what I love about Aerofarms, is that it's like technology that's allowing people to farm better and smarter, and it makes really delicious food.
The world needs a new paradigm of how we're going to feed this planet. Aerofarms is illustrative of what technology can do to provide more with less.
There you go. So I know for this audience, like if you go through the participant list, I clicked on it. There's a lot of the all-stars really of CEA in on this call. So I appreciate your patience as we were looking through that. I know a lot of it is super familiar to most of you. I'm going back over to here. You see my screen again? We're good?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Okay, so then I said that I set this one up to dig into partnerships in particular. So here's examples. Hitting the light metrics and keep driving that down. Their partnerships are the way to go. Aerofarms does not make our own lights. And so we have partnerships through the Bird Foundation and the partner Juganu, through the PIP Consortium, partner Fluence, Sky High, the partner Signify, working on greater and greater efficiency of lights. And part of that is just raw watts, but what else can we do with spectrum tuning and other tricks in order to reduce the overall energy consumption of the lights. One of them, oh man, this picture got super smushed. So one of the most exciting parts of the favorite part of my weeks are when I get to work on the drones, machine vision, and data analysis. And so just like on this picture, you see a fella reaching in there and looking at these plants. Going forward, there's so many plants that making better use of drone technology and machine vision is the way to go. And so that's been we're closing in on 3 years of work on this one, where we're able to keep an eye on all the plants, map out what's happening with them, make decisions based on it. It's interesting. So since I was in school, like the time it takes to sort of map someone's knowledge and brain over into an AI, so much faster. It didn't take very long at all. It took just a couple of weeks, not a couple of years, to kind of have the AI learn to match up with what the human wanted to bring to it. It took a while to get the machine ready to learn, and then once it was ready, it went relatively fast. A few more partnerships. GLASE is, of course, at the top of this list, but there's others too, where Aerofarms helps out however we can. We're happy to support across the board. And if you're new to the industry, new to this sort of a meeting. I'll also put a plug in there for Optimia has open meetings too that are chock full of good information, and there's still time probably to participate in length. And then in particular, the PIP consortium. PIP stands for Precision Indoor Plants, and this is a consortium where today this group of companies, with FAR being a quasi-governmental group, not really a company, are working to co-optimize genetics and environment for tomatoes, lettuce, and strawberries. And so FAR provides a lot of the funding. The member companies provide a lot of the funding. And then we turn around and let out contracts for researchers to make advancements, like I said, for the 3 crops listed below. At this point, the lettuce contract has been let out, the tomato contract has been let out, and the strawberry one is close, but I should put a little bit of, and wait, there's more opportunities coming to pitch in here under the PIP consortium. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Roger and Melanie. Very informative, inspiring, like always in both of your talks. And yeah, like Roger said, both Plenty and Aerofarms are GLASE members. So thank you both of you for the support that you provide for us to be here today and have this conversation with the open audience. Very interesting things. I made a few notes along the way. I think both of you, some common topics right there. I thought it was interesting as well, Roger. Melanie brought that over and you comment on the food waste and how the indoor farms can help with that. Another point there is that we noticed that in underdeveloped countries, there is a lot of waste on the field and transportation. In developed countries, there is a lot of food waste at the household, which is very interesting, the dynamics, right? And how the indoor farming being close, fresh, can really help to tackle those problems. And inequality is a big problem, right? For example, in US, more than hunger is just the nutritional problem is big one here. People have a lot of calories, but not so much nutrients. And that's a perfect plug-in for indoor farms to be everywhere. But the spirit of the conversation today, we talk about challenges and opportunities in indoor farming. And like both of you said, they're pretty much the same, right? Take a challenge and turns into an opportunity. And now the question is how we're gonna get it done. I thought it was very interesting. I have 3 categories here that we can turn around the conversation, and there are questions coming from the audience as well. But the 3 topics I'd like to cover if we have time is energy, sustainability, and market. I think energy is the one that is probably the heavy hitter here. People talk all of, every meeting you go, people bring that up, especially for indoor farms, the energy that lighting consume, how can you make that feasible and sustainable? But there's so many other factors that are very interesting. So with the lighting, 2 comments here I'd like to hear from both of you. So the first one is how you offset the cost of lighting with the rest of the whole, you control everything else. So you have a better control on temperature, you have higher production yields, right? And what is the thought process there, especially when you think about scaling up? One thing Melanie mentioned is small gains. She talked about the pumps, but I think it applies for any kind of technology. Small gains, when you go to a huge scale like both of you, it can provide some significant amount of savings and really contribute with the industry. And the last one is lighting being the main energy consumption on the indoor farms. And we're approaching lighting, the LEDs, the maximum efficiency of the LEDs we're approaching the maximum. We're not gonna get much more squeeze and efficiency there on the electricity to photons. What is next on lighting from you? Roger mentioned a little bit about the spectrum. But do you see anything else on lighting? So let me stop here and leave to both of you comments on those.
So I could start. On the energy side, I mean, you are right on the lighting side. So I mentioned that between the farm in the videos and then the farm that I didn't show, that our energy use for the lights our energy efficiency has gone up 50%. There's not another 50% just in the raw wall plug efficiency. So there's, there's maybe another 20%. And then, but at 50%, you're exceeding the theoretical limits. And so we do need to be more creative. We do need to be thinking of how are we making sure we're using every photon that we did generate. And I know there's a number of different strategies for that to make sure that we're collecting, reusing, recycling that light. I also think that there's going to be more and more strategies for making sure you get the most bang for your buck in terms of the right spectrum at the right time. There's still plenty of work to be done there for sure on the lighting side.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Roger. I just think there's a lot of work still to be done. Like I kind of mentioned for a second there, about using far red judiciously, in terms of getting that stretching or leaf expansion, whatever you want. I think there's a lot of work with towards end of production, maybe using light to close the stomates to get that plant that's going to last longer after you've harvested it is a big thing I'd like to see investigated more. Yeah, and we've already sort of mentioned sort of paying attention to the whole farm all the time, how the energy is being used, where it's going. I think about things like even, installation of the facility or things like this that, maybe we can get something back there, just really paying attention to the whole facility, how we're building it. As we start to build, more facilities from the ground up, it gives us the opportunity, to think about what's best, to really think about how to make it really energy efficient.
Perfect. A question that, so we see a lot on those presentations, and I think at least on the open public, the discussion about the technologies, LEDs, and how to automate temperature control and so on. We see this a lot, and that's obviously a major challenge when you scale up. But there is one thing that both of you mentioned today, which I don't see a lot of open discussion, maybe because this is the secret sauce. And if that is the point, right, I don't want to hear what is the secret sauce from both of you, but genetics, right? Unlocking the potential within the plants, because we see the massive teams of engineers that both of you have, and we see on those pictures, those towers and how you increase over time. So Roger show a nice time frame, how you improve over time, and Melanie show all the schematics about robots picking and doing this. So the technology is massive investment there. How about the genetics? Do you see this is a 50 and 50% thing should be gained there? Do you think the genetics is bigger than that, is less than that? And just the basic question here, is there a lot of discussion on the genetics? It's just we don't bring to the public as much as we do on the technology side. How do you see the genetics aspect, the potential for the future, and any thoughts about that?
It's okay if I start on this one too, because I'll kind of give the walk up the history part of it. 15 years ago, I don't think anybody really wanted to talk to anyone doing vertical farming or completely controlled CEA from the genetics point of view. Right, the market was so small, it was hard to get anyone's attention. And at that time, it made sense to focus on the growing technology, and let's make sure we do something useful and do some good in the world with that technology using the seeds that already existed, using the genetics that are already out there. And so that's what we saw happen sort of through that first round of vertical farming companies. And great progress was made. So enough so that the volume and the size of the market being addressed got large enough for strictly genetic companies to start to reach out and be willing to talk through what can we do together. From this point on, I don't know if it's 50-50, but I think genetics is still a smaller piece, but maybe it's 20-80 in terms of how do we break through and find the right crops. You think about it, more than think about it, you taste it. And Melanie touched on this, that for years and years and years, decades, the plants have been bred for shelf life. Plants have been bred for disease resistance. Vertical farming is big enough now to actually cut through that and get some attention from folks that are used to just continuously breeding for the next generation of downy mildew. Now those those breeders, I think they appreciate having a different and more exciting problem. I hope so. So then what do I see going forward? We chose on the PIP consortium, we chose lettuce, strawberries, and tomatoes first, because they were diverse from each other, and also because we saw a lot of impact there. So that those are three crops where year after year, things have kind of gone towards the model of, less and less taste, but more and more versatility. Less and less taste, but works better in a Subway restaurant. So I'm not saying necessarily bad, but when you switch to what does the retail consumer want? And there's plenty of folks out there that really want the flavor. I think that there's a lot of gains to be made there.
Yeah, I think genetics is going to be super duper exciting in the next few years. I think that we're going to see flavor. I think we're going to see new crops. I think we're going to see little cucumbers that have stripes. I think we're going to see eggplants. I think we're going to see peppers. I think we're just going to see this explosion of food that has either become, we didn't even know it existed. It just hasn't been available because growers have been forced to grow I don't want to say what's easy because it's still hard, but what's possible, so now we've opened up what's possible. But that said, breeding takes a long time. It starts to also delve into the realm of what I think of as magic, where a breeder can create something, where the two parents, didn't look at all like what they want to come out with. So there has to be a sense of patience and determination to get those products. Plenty is invested. Most of our breeding has been invested around tomatoes because, we do have this specific form factor of vertical growing. So we want our plants to be close to our towers, that give rise to an ability to harvest and to grow. So that's been interesting for us to breed and to see what we can get. And so we are starting to see what's possible. But yes, I think that the breeding is going to be the next big chapter of what vertical farms can offer to the public. So
Great. Fantastic. There are several questions here around the same theme. So I'm going to try to wrap up them into one and then bring into the notion of scaling up, because that's the theme here for this roundtable today. Lots of questions about how you control heat, cool, and dehumidification in an indoor place. We know there's a big challenge there with air movement and so on, but I think at this stage, both of you have figured that out. So if we can talk about the impacts of good management on or how you achieve good management of cooling, heating, and dehumidification in these very large indoor areas, considering the transpiration of the plants and so on. And how do you go, I think Melanie mentioned something interesting at the beginning, from the R&D to a commercial scale, right? Melanie mentioned about initial years, some plant was just proving you can achieve, you can grow anything. And then Roger, you showed the time frame, starting with one facility out of Ithaca with Ed Hardwood, which always have to mention Ed on those talks, and then going, right, international facilities, a mega place in New Jersey. So what is the importance on the balance of the entire production? If you think about those methodologies as you can prove that it works well in a small scale, but then making it work on those very large scales that we're talking about with both of you.
I went first the last two times. I don't want to step on your toes, Melanie.
No, it's okay. I think that, you're asking a really excellent question. And all I can say is scaling is scary. Scaling is a challenge and it's scary because, in all the facilities we build, we are, yes, building it on the foundation of what we've learned previously, but we're pushing that limit of what we think is possible. So sometimes I refer to, we're building a giant rocket ship to go to the moon. It's, the math should work, everything should work. And we've done as many tests as we possibly can, but, are we going to land safely on the moon? Hope so. So the scaling is a thing. For example, in our San Francisco farm, our towers are 5 meters, so essentially 15 feet. In our Los Angeles farm, we've extended that to be 8 meters. So you've got that, not quite double, but a whole bunch more growing space there. And we were able to build a very tiny sort of prototype to test that 10 meters, the questions that I had, not so much around temperature and humidity and that sort of management, but even about, could there be a nutrient gradient? Could we, would we have to think about that? These are the kinds of questions that we have to think about. And, again, we've had a small scale ability to test that, but we won't know until we're really, producing consistently in the rocket ship / Compton farm. So scaling is an exciting thing. I think that's what makes, Aerofarms and Plenty unique in a way, so that we're taking a heck of a risk when we scale. We're not using equipment that has been used before and, is tried and true, and we're taking a risk. And we're depending on each other and our engineers and our growers to be able to have that be a very calculated risk. But it's scary and exciting.
It's thrilling. It's a great time to be an inventor. But I'm with you. It's risky. It's not the same as I'm just going to uncrate another Oreo filler and drop it on the line. It's a different world. I'll mention some of the things that have to do with temperature and humidity. I think it ties in with some of the questions in Q&A and what you just asked. And we talk about how high up we're going, and so working with or working around temperature gradients or humidity gradients is part of what we need to be thinking about, and looking for new technologies that help with that is key. And so as you get higher up, the temperature gets goes warmer and warmer. Although my daughter did ask me last weekend, she said, well, if the higher you go up, it gets hotter, then how come there's ice on the top of mountains? So I got to go back and research that one after this. And so working with that is probably better than working around it, and finding the right solutions to help that work for us. And I think that's the kind of the judo of it, is to as you scale up, find these challenges and then look for ways to turn them into advantages.
Perfect. There is 2 topics let's see have time to cover, but if we can, I will just bring this up. There's a lot about nutrition, lots of questions on nutrient management, how you can increase sustainability there. But since you talks a little bit about environmental factors and just nutrition plants already, we have not talked about the market. So let me go for the market first. If you have time, I'll go back to this one. But just want to bring there is a common area of interest here, is the nutrient management. But before covering this one, Melanie mentioned something that I never heard. It's the first time I heard here. So I'm curious to learn more about this. The new food category that Walmart, I guess, right, wants to create, that is this open and eating. I don't know if I'm late to the game. I never heard. It's common out there. It's something brand new. But that's definitely right. When you think about scaling up, that can be a big push for all those companies. Now there is a new category of food, big on market adoption and conception, or just the perception from the consumers. That could be a big thing for all the indoor farmers and greenhouses to some extent as well, pushing those products and getting heads up, just an edge versus field agriculture. So Melanie and Roger, is that something that is already established, something that people are just considering right now? And what could be the impacts to help other indoor farmers around the United States?
Okay, I'll just jump in real quick. Yeah, no, I think it could be very impactful. I think that, we have, so many labels where, no need to wash or ready to eat, but we haven't unified into the same sort of label that organic has, where everybody, I could argue whether everybody knows what that means, but everybody thinks they know what that means. So, but I think that if we have where different vertical farming, and even some greenhouses, it would be like, this is clean food. I think if we could have that label to really unify us, that would be, really thrilling and exciting in terms of, for the customers, for us as producers to be able to have that label for customers.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think it would be fantastic, and there are a couple of groups that are working towards that, and I think that it would it would incentivize, a high level of FSQA, of food safety. So you see Aerofarms and Plenty showing those buildings going in with so many plants in them. And there's plenty of risk just inside those four walls in terms of let's make sure the technology works. But there's other risks outside of it of, a fly-by-night vertical farm could show up and not do a good job with food safety. And that could tar us all with that same brush. And so if that fly-by-night is told by Walmart or others that they need to have this clean label and need to abide by something a little bit more stringent than typical for like a field farmer, I think that that would give them incentive to do it safe, do it right, and protect the whole industry, protect this market.
Yeah, that's a great point, Roger. Absolutely. We're getting close to the time here. So instead of bringing another question, I just would like to say thank you for both of you. Thanks for everybody joining the conversation today. Love to hear if you have any final comments or suggestions about this conversation today. But before doing so, just highlight again that in this industry, as secretive as indoor farmers can be, I think you two are very good in sharing and creating awareness, and just, it's a big benefit for the whole industry. Roger mentioned, you highlight some other programs. Both of you are part of GLASE. You understand the need, and I think that's something very nice to have here in US, is this collaboration that can really help. And not to say the partner is light. Both of you put a lot of emphasis on the partners that you have to get where you are right now. High technology people, right? Good professionals, totally necessary. And shout out for the other groups as well, Optimia and Project LAMP. Actually, last year we put a nice plant lighting short course together, GLASE, Optimia, and LAMP. So it's great to see this collaboration with academics, with other industry partners. It's definitely an example. It's very nice to see this happening here in US, and we can hopefully become a model for the rest of the world when it comes to collaboration, technology development, and just bringing those new technologies to market. So with that said, Melanie, Roger, any final comments? Anything else we didn't cover you think is important to mention out there, or anything else?
Yeah, I would just say don't think that these problems are solved. Like there's a lot of problems left to go. So if you're just stepping into it, don't think that the ship has sailed without you. There's a lot of room for creative people right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I would just add, I think you mentioned nutrition at one point. I think the nutrition and the fertigation and how we manage it is that's going to be an exciting world to be in. And the last thing I would say is, yeah, there's a lot of interest by the Dutch and a lot of American and Dutch consortiums that are being created to sort of think about what needs to be studied and what problems we need to answer. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Roger, Melanie. Thanks everybody who attended the conference today, the roundtable. This presentation will be recorded and available. Well, it was recorded, will be available at the GLASE website within a few days. So I just thanks everybody for joining, and I hope everybody have a great day. Thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Bye-bye.